Well, been thinking about how to present the video because there's so many different things happened on the Tuesday, Wednesday, and I tried putting it in, as it happened. It just was too confusing even for me. I think I'll talk about the different aspects individually. I'd like to start off with getting out of bed. I actually did that on the 18th, the Monday, before Michael came in. They actually sat me up in bed. They showed me how to sit up in bed, which I did. And then they wanted me to stand, and that wasn't happening. I had jelly legs, and they quickly realized that, and I was quickly put back into bed, assisted back into bed, and lay down. On the 19th, I was able to sit up. They tried again. I was able to sit up. I was able to stand up. I was able to shuffle over to a chair and right close to the bed. And I was able to sit in the chair, which even I would thought, well, that's pretty good. That's an accomplishment, considering everything. And I sat there for a short while, and then they decided I should go back to bed. I guess so I wouldn't get dizzy or whatever. And so I had to reverse the process, which I did. On the 20th, I did get out of bed. I think it must have been for breakfast. They did it first thing in the morning because I remember eating. Yes, it was for breakfast. I remember sitting up, standing up, shuffling over to the chair. Breakfast was served, and I ate my breakfast in the chair. Then they got me back into my bed. I don't know how much longer after that. And then later on Wednesday, is the 20th, I actually got to walk. It was after lunch. Physiotherapist came in, and she had a modified, a really unique walker. It was 4 wheels, and it was tall, so you could stand, and it had a platform about chest level, and then it had two handles sticking up that you had to grip, and then you just walked with it. You just kind of pushed it along, and it just went with you. And I walked, oh, I don't know. I'm figuring 15 minutes, maybe less, maybe more, I don't know. And I was really quite pleased with myself that I was able to do that. It's like, because I'm thinking I just had surgery. I shouldn't be doing this. This is like, 5 days after surgery, and so that was a big accomplishment. From there, let's see what else happened. Oh yeah, I think it was Monday night, Monday evening. I my stomach was starting to wake up, and things were becoming back online, and I was getting a little bit bloated. Um, so I remember asking my nurse, which in that ward we had one-to-one care, which was fantastic. And I very sheepishly asked, I said, well, what happens if I got a fart? I don't want to offend anyone. And without batting an eye, she wasn't really facing me. She just kind of looked at me over her shoulder and said, "Let him rip." So that was kind of, I remember that. I chuckle over it to this day. So that was okay. I let him rip all right, let me tell you. Let's see. Tuesday, the 19th. Michael was in the afternoon. I was sitting in bed, and we had one of the doctors that was in the operating room with me and whatnot. And I guess he was monitoring me. They were keeping a close eye on me, and they had me sit up in bed, and they started talking about my left eye and my mouth. They were both drooping a bit, and they figure I had a very small stroke. They don't know when it happened or anything like that. And then they said, "Keith, you need to sit up straight." I said, "Well, I am. I was kind of sitting over like this, and they just grabbed me by the shoulders and put me upright. So it was like, that was kind of interesting. And they said they did some sort of scan on my brain, and they couldn't find any, I guess what they call artifacts, something like that, to indicate that I had a stroke of any sort. Anyway, they scheduled me for another one just in case they missed something, but I don't think they found anything. And they were quite often having me squeeze their hands. You know, they reach out, squeeze my hand as hard as you can, you know. And my left was always a little bit weaker than my right, which I thought was, thinking back, I thought was a bit unusual because I'm left-handed. That's my stronger hand. So I was getting a little, you know, I thought, have I had a stroke? Did I have a stroke? You know, but no, I don't know. They never found anything, so I don't think I ever had a stroke. It could have just been a, you know, a post-operative thing where the brain wasn't engaging in drive, so to speak, and given full control over everything. Now I know I talked to some people before the surgery about the delirium that could happen. Yeah, it happened. You know when you have a really good dream and you're sleeping and it just seems so real. You're just part of the dream, you're interactive with it. Well, this is even more real. Uh, I was, I don't know how deep I was into it, but many times over the days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, even part of Thursday, you could say the elevator was at the top floor, but I wasn't on it. I was out in, you know, they say sometimes you're way out in left field. Well, I was out in left field about 3 ballparks over. But it was interesting. They To live with this state of mind of, it just seemed reality, and it really wasn't. Um, One thing I noticed is when I shut my eyes, like what I'm doing now, I see black, nothing. But then back then I could shut my eyes and I could see images uh, covering every, you know, whatever vision I have, you know, um, and it could be of anything. It could be of flowers. It could be of. I think there's one I was looking, like I was looking down into a ravine with a bunch of logs. Um, there was, and it was like a slideshow. I could open my eyes and close my eyes, open my eyes, close my eyes, and it would change every time. Um, there were times I'd be looking at the, you know, the curtain that goes around the bed, and the pattern on the curtain was going up like this constantly. Even though I know it's a static curtain, there's nothing moving. It wasn't moving, but that's what my mind was seeing, and I found that kind of disturbing. But they kind of keep you grounded, I guess, because they'll often come up to you, a new nurse or a doctor or whatever. They come in and they always ask you, you know, what is your name? Where are you? What city are we in? What day is it? What month? What year? And that was kind of good because I always answered those correctly. Mind you, I think I missed the date once, but you know, it's not bad. I think that was just after I woke up or something, so I was even less engaged than I thought. But it was definitely weird because you could slip in and out of the reality of real into your mind, where your mind would just ease you into another state of mind and play games on you. I remember I was, oh, that comes up in a future video, but I think, this is on, must have been on Thursday morning. I got up and then I went back to bed. And all of a sudden I was dreaming. It was really wild. And then I remember I was climbing out of bed and one of the staff saw me and stopped me and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm going to the bathroom." I said, "Well, you didn't buzz us." I forget what my answer was, but anyway. I said, "Well, why are you going?" I said, "Well, I'm in, the cook and washrooms are just over here." But there was no cook and washroom. I wasn't at cook and bus depot. Anyway, that's just one little episode. But yeah, it was interesting because you could drift in and out of reality and then a delirium state of mind. It's a scary thought. It's scary to go through because I sit here now thinking, well, I know where I was all the time, but my mind had me in totally different places. But lucky that went away by Thursday afternoon. But anyway, let's see. I'm not sure. Oh yes, on Wednesday, I had my chest X-ray, sat up in the chair, had breakfast, had an ultrasound, and they just, I guess, wanted to check everything and make sure everything was running tickety-boo, so to speak. And then it was just before lunch. I was back in bed about 11:30, and they said, "Oh, the physiotherapist wants you to walk this afternoon, and she's coming at 12:30." And I look at the clock, and it's like 11:30. So that gives me an hour to rest, and I got some rest in, and the walk went through all right. I should go back to Tuesday when that doctor was in checking me out. I think I ended up having him lunch or something, or supper. Maybe it was supper. I believe Michael was there, so it must have been supper. And I remember reaching to put the spoon in the bowl to scoop up some more of that pureed food, and I missed it. I tried scooping early, and I was about an inch away from the bowl, and I kept doing that. I couldn't figure out why I was doing that. It just didn't make any sense. It's like I was doing fine before, and now I'm missing. I can't seem to judge right. And the doctor saw that, and I guess he was probably assessing me on that too. And then after the meal, I was still thinking about it. I was quite with it at that point, and then I remembered I have astigmatism. I bet you that's the problem. I didn't have my glasses with me. So I said, "I have astigmatism. I bet you that's why I'm missing the bowl." And so he said, do you have glasses? And I said yes. And they were down in my stuff stored downstairs where I checked in. And so they got the glasses up to me, and everything started working a little better. I was able to judge my distances better, and so that was comforting. And then after the physiotherapist, going back to Wednesday, after the physiotherapist, I was in bed, and then they informed me that, okay, we're going to be moving, we're going to shipping you out. We're going to ship you to the step-down unit into just cardiac ICU. You'll have your own room, and they'll take care of you from there. So I had to wait for a porter to come up. He finally showed up, and then they had to load me up on the bed. I'd transfer onto another bed, and I had monitoring wires out of me, and they were all hooked up to monitoring devices of sorts, and so they had to take that with me to keep me monitored, and they had battery packs to go with it. So it was, it was quite a chore, but they loaded me up, and I think I teased something about maybe we should get a U-Haul, that might help. But they got me down to the ICU, and they got me into my room, and I got settled in, and I remember having supper, and they kept telling me, if you need anything, here's the call button. Call us for anything. I don't care what, just call us. And late that evening, I dropped my cell phone on the floor. And I thought, well, I don't want to call them for that. I can just jump out of bed and grab it, you know. Simple, easy. So I remember gingerly getting out of bed and seeing my cell phone on the floor, and reaching down, crouching down, but it wasn't what I thought was going to happen, because my button legs went that way and the rest of me went this way, and I hit right down near the base where the floor meets the wall, and of course it's all hard floor there, and I hit it right there. Got me one heck of a nosebleed. And the nurse came running in, night nurse came running in and trying to figure out what the hell were you doing, basically. And so I was, yeah, I was jarred, but I was able to tell her what I was doing. She goes, you were supposed to call us. We would have just come in and grabbed it for you. Anyway, they thought they'd have to take me down to emergency and get me checked out, or x-rays or whatever. And I said, no, I'm fine. Just, I had a nosebleed. But they still decided I needed to be checked out. And I had to go for another one of those CSI scans or whatever in the morning. And from that point on, I was under a pretty tight leash. And I was told every time a nurse was there, or a doctor, or staff were there, it's like a reminder: if you need anything, use the call button. Use the call button. We will be there for you. And I think there was a couple of times I didn't, but things got a little better as time went by. And I think that's all the exciting stuff that happened. Oh, I know, when they thought I broke something in my nose, but there's no breakage. Hurt mostly my pride. The other thing, they thought maybe I thought I jarred my wiring around my sternum where they had closed me up. So she listened with the stethoscope, and whatever it's called, and she said, no, everything sounds good. I said, yeah, but you were just listening. How can you tell? And she says, well, if you damaged the wiring, your sternum would be grinding against each other, and we would hear it when we listen to your chest, and there's no sound, so it sounds normal. So, okay, that's good. It was kind of reassuring that I didn't do any damage there. And yeah, that was quite a day. Anyway, we'll, oh my goodness, an 18-minute video, so I hope I haven't bored anyone. I think I got most of the details. And we'll talk again on Thursday, for the Thursday-Friday episode. Anyway, we'll chat then. Bye for now.